Hold it. Valerie, would you like to launch us off on that?
I'd love to, because our system of jurisprudence for going way back, back to the constitutional days, in fact, differentiates organizations that come together for the purpose of worship and religious affiliation and religious indoctrination from other kinds of corporate bodies. And so, I mean, essentially, what we're looking at now is individuals and corporations, for-profit corporations, claiming the rights that have been secured for religious congregations. The special rights that are given to religious congregations are recognition of the fact that you can't practice worship unless people are able to come together in community to do that. That's very different than getting to impose your religious values on your employees. And I would argue that it's impossible to have civil society if you give people the right to impose their religious beliefs on their societies. Christianity has fragmented into 32,000 different denominations at the last time I checked, and each of them has a different set of moral priorities and a different understanding of God's will. So if you start giving those people the right to impose their version on other people, I don't know where that stops. We end up, any way you look at it, having to make hard decisions that trade off the rights and liberties of individuals against
Valerie,
one another.
I'm very troubled by something that you just seem to have said, and I want to make sure that I'm understanding you correctly. Because are you suggesting that religious liberty is not a personal, individual right? It is only a corporate right for religious organizations?
No.
Do I have a personal right?
As do all the women employees of Hobby Lobby. They also have a personal right to practice their autonomy, to get their health care, maternal health care.
Where is there a right guaranteed in the Constitution to get their health care?
We're not talking Constitution.
Yes, we are. We are talking about the right to free exercise of religion.
You asked her about religion practice. And,
correct.
And
no,
I'm
asking her.
Supersede the person.
No,
I'm going to answer for her.
No, let me make clear what my question is, Monica, please. My question is very simple. When the Constitution speaks of free exercise of religion, are they only granting that as free exercise for an organization, or is that for an individual too?
I would argue that it is, in fact, only for individuals, and the right to assembly for religious purposes is an extension of the rights of individuals.
Okay, so hold on for a moment. Let me just.
The rights of institutions religious institutions have never been threatened. That wasn't what
Valerie,
the Inquisition was about.
If I can. If you're saying this only has to do with the right to assemble for religious institutions, what if it is a single privately owned business? It's a family business.
Oh, you keep wanting, everyone wants to go back to that, don't they?
No.
I
mean, in other words, because that's what you're talking about. You're talking about corporate rights versus religious rights. I'm talking about the rights of individuals to fulfill their conscience.
And they go to church, they go to synagogue, they go to temple,
Can I make it very, very clear? The Constitution does not guarantee a right to freedom of worship. It guarantees a right to freedom of religion. And that's very different.
The Constitution guarantees a right to freedom of religious opinion. That's what we just heard. The rest of this conversation is more complex than that.
And Hobby Lobby is not a church.
Hobby Lobby has 500 employees. It's an enormous organization. That is
okay. So if it were an individually owned business,
500 stores.
I have a little business. I have my family, and we have 2 employees. Okay, one of whom is here. And plus my wife. But do I have the rights to, with my little tiny business, because I'm an individual, and I believe everyone agrees that there is such a right as individual liberty to religion, to practice religion, to free exercise of religion, do I then have the right to extend my free exercise of religion to my small, individually, totally owned family business?
Let me ask you a question. As an employee with an earned benefit, which is health insurance that happens to get routed through my employer because that's how we structure it in this country, do I have a right to use my health insurance to decide to the best of my own spiritual and religious values when and whether to bring a child into this world?
Sure. You have a right to get any insurance you want. All that Hobby Lobby is insisting is that they not be forced to pay for insurance they do not choose to pay for. There's nothing preventing someone from getting health insurance that covers abortions or abortifacients or anything else.
And this is sort of the point, I think, is that when you look at the word imposition is being thrown around a lot. Imposition. That people are imposing their beliefs on others. There's only one group in this country that is using the government to impose their beliefs on others at the point of a gun, and that is not Hobby Lobby. Hobby Lobby is involved in a consensual relationship between the employer and the employee. Churches are involved in consensual relationships between themselves and their constituents. The government is not involved in a consensual relationship when it tells a business that it will revoke its license and it will come to their front door if they remain open, and it will forcibly shut down their business. There's only one person and one group that is coming to the party here with a gun. And the only group, I mean, you said conservatives love guns. Liberals love guns far more. They just love guns that are being used by the government against conservatives. It's an extraordinarily dangerous business. The minute that you have the government deciding whose beliefs are deeply held versus what is not deeply held, I mean, that literally is the thought police. I mean, that is the government deciding what's in your head and then guaranteeing you certain rights based on what's in your head. And the bottom line to this entire discussion is really, does the government have the power to regulate your religious behavior if the government feels that it violates its morality? That's really the central conflict that we're talking about here. And the problem is that as the government decides that it can regulate particular behaviors, and this is the point that I was making at the very beginning, as the government decides it can regulate particular behaviors, the sphere of religious liberty is going to shrink to exactly what Chief Justice Waite said there. It's going to shrink smaller and smaller and smaller until the only thing that you can do, religiously speaking, is think about your religion and maybe pray in your own home.
Well, so you're attributing that to Waite, but it's what Thomas Jefferson said, and I say that not because Thomas Jefferson wasn't in fact a deity, but to call attention to the fact that this conversation goes way back in America's history. We have struggled with it for an incredibly long time, and if you look, for example, at this opinion, what Waite did say is he talks about the government being able to regulate behavior that is relevant to social duties and order.
Which is a malleable term, and this is why I think both Jefferson and Waite are wrong.
Let me just break in. I think you're being slightly paranoid. I don't know who you're talking about. In America, you can change your religion. You can have no religion. You can. Do they smoke peyote? You can smoke peyote as a religious right. For goodness sakes, man. Move to Egypt. Let me finish. Move to Pakistan. Move to Saudi Arabia. Then you can complain. And I, for one, think America is a fantastic country. And you know, as a liberal, right, that's what you say about me. And,
I think you're a leftist.
And most liberals are self-hating Americans, right? I love America, and I teach American religion. And I will stand up for what we have built.
But you'll shut down my business if I don't serve a cake to get to a gay
couple. As a great culture with great religious liberty.
But you will shut down my business if I don't serve a cake to a gay wedding.
Pardon me?
But you'll shut down my business if I don't serve a cake to a gay wedding.
I can assure you we'll be getting to shutting down business.
Give me an example.
As a result.
Give me an example.
I'll give you an example of
that example. That exact example.
Just a second. Yeah, we will have those some examples coming up. But follow up, Dr. Wellman, you just said Ben shouldn't complain because we're not Egypt or Saudi Arabia. Wouldn't it be a good idea?
Right.
Wouldn't it be a good idea to, in the preservation of liberty, to have a heated debate about the nature of those rights? Because the same argument could be made for any given homosexual couple or any given far-left couple or any non-Muslim faith in the United States that they don't live in Egypt or Saudi Arabia either. So therefore, they shouldn't complain.
Well, you know, all right. Yeah, but I don't think we have...
I thought that liberals were the complainers.
Pardon me?
I thought liberals were the complainers in this country.
I don't know. Dr. Wellman brought up the idea that Ben shouldn't speak out.
No, you know, I love the fact that Ben is controversial, and he does well because he is controversial. That's why we like to hear him. But let's get to the facts a little bit. You know, religious rights and religious liberties are not being compacted in America. You know, but let me go back to what Michael asked.
Can you answer the example that I gave earlier?
The case of polygamy. I think that was wrongly decided.
You think so? You actually agree with me that a shop should be allowed to reject service to a gay wedding?
I think it's an interesting question. Is it a
Why
public?
Is that an interesting question? Why is that
wait.
clear-cut?
You like to interrupt? It's a public for-profit business. And I think there is non-discrimination should go on there, and they should not be allowed to discriminate against gay people.
So in other words,
yes, I agree with that.
Gentlemen, wait.